auditorium. She's at IMC. So I apologize if there's gaps in my knowledge. I'll try to cover everything, but no guarantee. So let's start off with why the tides happen. It's pretty simple, actually. The moon, as the moon revolves around the Earth, the gravitational pull from the moon will pull the tides in directions that the moon is at. And I have a video that'll explain this. I mean, it's self-explanatory. Like, these are the tides, this is the moon, and yeah. And so, what? Oh, we did it again.
Video, yeah.
Okay. Here's some examples of like tides. The most notable example is the Bay of Fundy. It's right up here. This is Maine, and this is Canada. It's right here. This is the bay here. And then these are the two pictures of the bay. This is the bay at high tide, where the tides are way up here, and this is the bay at low tides, where the tides are way back here. And I have a video for this one too. So yeah, in a matter of, it said 6.5 hours, the moon caused all those tides to happen again. The moon caused those tides to go up approximately 56 feet. 56 feet the tide traveled in that time. Yeah, another example is Normandy Beach. Back in World War II, the Allies were invading France. Well, they were invading France, but it was Germany who controlled France. The Germans expected us to invade at the high tides, where we would be landing right here and then coming and then attacking here. But what we did is we waited hours and we went at the low tide, and so it was extremely confusing and caught the Germans off guard, because why would we come in here? We've got to run all this way, and then they've got all this time prepared. No. They expected this, they got this. And animal uses, how the animals use the tides. Here's just an example of like low tide. There's so much land that basically fish and stuff will get, water sea creatures will get washed up here, and then birds will come along and they'll start eating them. That's just one example of how animals use it for food. And I had to put this first, neap tides. This is when the sun is pulling on the earth at the same time that the moon is, but it's at this sort of 90-degree angle. So they're both pulling on the tides, and it makes this weird tide that is not exactly, I don't know, regular. It isn't exactly normal. I mean, it happens, but it only happens on quarter moons, and it happens 7 days after spring tides. And now we get into these two weird words, which but the apogee means the micromoon, when the moon is farthest from the Earth, and so it has the least amount of pull it can have, as 2 inches less. So instead of, at the Bay of Fundy, instead of 56, it would be 54. And then the opposite is true for the perigee. So it's a supermoon, which means that the tides are 2 inches more, so it would be 58. And it's when the moon is closest to the Earth. And then years ago, the moon was much closer. It was 14,000 miles away, as opposed to right now approximately 380,000, give or take, because it rotates. And so that answers your question. about 380,000 miles.
I think those are kilometers.
I looked it up, it said miles. It's possibly kilometers though, I could have been lied to. The moon is currently moving away from Earth at 1.6 inches per year. Now this will not always happen, it'll eventually stop, and so it'll be both tidally locked and rotationally locked with the Earth.
Want me to help
Can
you?
I help you? I got this.
You want to be the moon or do you want to be the Earth?
I'll be the moon.
Okay. So you're telling me the moon is going to be drifting a little bit farther from Earth?
Yep.
Eventually it's going to reach some kind of
It's gonna stop.
equilibrium?
Yep.
And then,
It's going to turn like this with the Earth. So it's going to stay in, more or less the exact same place. And so this part of the Earth will always see the moon, and then this part of the Earth will never see the moon.
crazy.
But this will be millions of years in the future.
Oh, we don't have to
so-
worry about that?
No, we don't.
Oh, okay. What if it got stuck right in the eclipse spot?
That would be
Wouldn't that be something?
interesting. And back when it was much closer, 14,000 miles close to Earth, this opened the door for more diverse life, and because it caused more extreme tides, and that's what I'm going to leave it at, more diverse life. Any questions? Yes.
So, the very end, when you say that it just like half of the Earth doesn't see the moon and the other half does, will we ever have a blood moon again? Do you know?
No, I don't think so.
That's a good question, because I can only imagine the moon is still going to be doing this. So depending on where it kind of gets locked.
Right.
Well, that's a good question. You should fire up your computer simulation and see where this ends up. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. That's a good question. It's
Yeah.
fun to think about, though.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Final offer.
Good job, Violet.
All right, sold.